Good morning and welcome to Zen Live. It's very cloudy outside. It looks like we might have some rain today. It's been, God knows, a month, and it seems to be. Everything is starting to turn brown, but it looks like rain coming. So, I'm really pumped up and ready to go this morning. Yesterday, and I talked about this last night at Martini time, so I'm assuming that you weren't there at Martini time. And basically I talked about going to the 150th reunion at Mount Nebo, a black church, historic black church here in Blackstone, Virginia. So I was taking pictures there, and I got to attend the sermon, and so I wrote about it. And I've made some really it's been going on inside of me since then, and writing on it again this morning. And just when I get a seed of truth, it just keeps growing and sprouting. So I keep pouring the water of meditation on it, or contemplation, and I keep asking it to reveal itself, and it does. And I begin to write about it, and now I talk about it. So what am I all so excited about? Well, first of all, I forgot to erase all this stuff here. This was the last talk. Doggone it! This talk was about Catch Me If You Can, a movie review, and this talk is about the thick paint of time. Okay? The thick paint of time. Now, my talk last night about Mount Nebo, basically, I think it was the timelessness of the black church, and that was the title of the talk and the comments and writing. And I feel encouraged because I got some favorable comments from some of the members of the church. There was my wife, who is a cautious person, having grown up in this area, said, "Well, watch out. There's a lot of sensitive, watch out what you're saying. There's a lot of raw feelings out there and sensitivity, about the black and white in the South, all over." So anyway, with taking that in mind, I went ahead with it. And so far, nobody has thrown any bricks at me. But the point I want to make is that the feeling I got at the Mount Nebo Church was the feeling of timelessness. And timelessness is when you're free from time. It doesn't mean you have no time. It means you're free from the tyranny of time. It's time to it's like if my wife says, "Are you hungry?" and I look at my watch to see if it's time to be hungry. You see what I mean? Time to be hungry. It's time to go to work. It's time to come home. It's time to have a coffee break. It's time to do this, time to do that, you see. This is my time. Get out of my time. I'm sorry. Am I in your time? Yes, you're in my time. So this idea that we're trying to possess time, it's my time, it's your time, we divide it up and we never satisfy. I don't have enough time. You got too much time. Where's my time? I need more time. I need more time. You notice how that is everywhere. So what is the timeless? The timeless is in you were free from the tyranny of time. So at the black church, the timeless black church, I had the feeling that I was free from, and everyone there was free from time. If the sermon went longer, I was, the initial schedule was to be there at 1 o'clock to take pictures, and I didn't start taking pictures till 3 o'clock. That was great. I got to hear the sermon. And the sermon was not about time. The sermon was not about the content, about the rational disposition, exposition of some theme with all the points and all that. The sermon was a joyous expression of celebration. So it wasn't, you didn't think about what he's saying while your body's still. I mean, there was just a body of timelessness there in which everyone dives into. I experienced this this body of time, the body of timelessness, the timeless body, you see. The timeless body is like a swimming pool in which people jump into. A wedding's a good example. So before the wedding, hope I'm not going off course, just briefly, before the wedding there is a strong sense of time. Oh my God, is everybody here? Is schedule? Oh my God, what's going to happen in time? Or what about the past? What am I leaving? Oh my God, I'll be different now. Or I'm going to be, time, the anxiety of time. And then there's the little space of the ceremony where everything gets still. And then there's a reception. And the reception is a timeless place. The music is going, and you just jump into the dancing. You jump into the sound. You jump into the moment, you see. And of course, the women are always the first to jump in, and they're like, come on to the husbands and boyfriend, come on in. And they're kind of like, well, I need a little more liquor before I jump in, you see. But then they jump into. So that's jumping into the now, into the timelessness, you see. Time has been defeated. The tyranny of time is ended. The prisoners are released, you see. And so I got to thinking that, well, geez, what's happened in our society is that the timelessness of the church is a timeless place, and the black church primarily is rooted more in the sound and the timelessness of the body and the interaction of the congregation and the sermon and the celebration of the message of the body, which is be here now. The body's here now. We're here now. Let's be here now. And that's a joyous place. When you're in time, you're not here now. You're in time. I got to get to work. I got to go home. I wish I wasn't here. And why am I in the back of the bus? This whole idea of time, the whole physical world of America particularly is all fragmented into everybody's got a little piece of time. But only on Sunday, that little hole, it's kind of like we've been painted back into this little corner of timelessness on Sunday. And then we go to church and we feel the timeless again, and we feel the joy, the celebration of timelessness. And then we go back to work, but go back to the world and back into the family. Now it's my time to watch TV. We're not going to do that. And time is all painted with time again, you see. But for that little moment, that little corner, there was some very strong turpentine. The paint of time was removed for that 1 or 2 or 3 hours on Sunday, you see. And so what I found, having once wanted to go into this church as a minister back in 1970, fortunately they reviewed my application and then spit me out. It was it was like their hairball. You see, because I was coming from a place of timelessness, and the church, this Presbyterian church, was all about time. And when you're all about time, you don't want the timelessness in there, at least at that time. So, yeah. So anyway, I had to go find my own path, you see. And what I discovered was that if you want to create the timelessness in your everyday life, you have to have a little can of turpentine, because the modern world is all painted in time. There's no space for the timeless. You have to get some turpentine, and I found that turpentine is meditation, and the manual for meditation is Buddhism. That's all it is. It's just an instruction cabinet for how to meditate, how to become timeless, how to apply turpentine to the suffering. Time is suffering. I'm in time. I want to be out of time tomorrow, you see. I want to be out of suffering. We're still in time. I got, anything you want tomorrow, anything desire, anything you want next week, tomorrow, the next moment is time, you see. But when you're in the timeless, there is no next moment. I'm just here and I'm happy. Like my mother said when she was 100, the reason I'm so happy is I have no more time. I have no time, no future, you see. So she, in her last year, she was in a timeless place. Lived to be 102. But I say, why wait until you're 100? Get that turpentine now and start applying it to time. So that's what meditation is about. You sit down, you have a little place in the morning or in the evening or whenever, and you take a vow to sit there, no matter what the mind does, no matter what time, but mind is time, thinking is time, mind is time. You put the body in that place, and you sit in your body, and you let the mind do what it wants. You don't invest in it, you don't think about it, you don't worry about it. You see, that's putting the turpentine on it, you see, and it begins to melt, break apart the time. And then it begins to spill out into your everyday life. And then somebody says, and then you begin to feel the contraction of time. I need more time. This is a bad time for me. Time will be better tomorrow. You see, when you begin to feel that, the little bit of, you get this little portable, little bottle of turpentine, you take it with you, and you just, oh, there's time. And you just put a little turpentine on it, and it begins to loosen up, you see. So that joy from the first hour, from that little painted corner on Sunday morning, that little joy of timelessness, whether it's in a white church or a black church, you put it in a bottle, and when you discover the pain of time during the week, you just put a little turpentine on it. Wow, this is great. I feel okay. I know I can't pay the bills. I know that I can't cover this. I know that I'm missing something. I know that I got to do something, but I'll just put a little turpentine on it, and it'll be okay. I'll get there. It'll work out. It'll flow, you see. So that turpentine makes time flow. And when you're flowing with time, you are time. You're not painted into time. You see, you are time. You create the time. You create the time. When you have to be somewhere at, say, when you have to be at the dentist at 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock is not a place. 3 o'clock is when you're when you're there. In other words, we believe that time and space, time is something, a field out there that exists separate from us, and I got to fit into it. And everybody's got their time. Everybody's got their time staked out. This is like a gold rush. And you rush to stake out your time. This is all my time. The kids keep out. Oh, damn, the phone rang when it was my time. Son of a bitch, you see. Or how dare the boss call me when it's my time. Or you got your little meditation time. You sit there and the phone rings. God damn. Or the kid comes in and knocks on the door. Get out, this is my time. There was a funny thing in 2.5 Men where one of somebody's sister was coming and she's meditating and she's sitting on the deck and she's meditating and Charlie calls her and she screams, "Will you? I'm meditating here. I'm meditating here. Shut up." So the whole point of meditation is that little bottle of turpentine that you can portable, that you can, when you discover the suffering of time in your life, put a little turpentine on it. I remember Chris Rock, one of his jokes, he said, Robitussin. He was growing up in a black family. He says, everybody, anything wrong with anything, you put a little put a little Robitussin on it. You see, used to be, castor oil, but this whole time, you feel the suffering of time, put a little turpentine on it, you see. Ah, that'll loosen it up, you see. Let that timelessness come through, you see. Let the timelessness, the original paint, you see, the original color, the original life comes through when you put a little turpentine on the paint of time. See? But our culture is time-bound. Everybody, the trains run on time, everything runs on time, you see. That created the Industrial Revolution. That's one of the big differences between the South and the North. The South was an agrarian, timeless society. Well, they used time, but it was the time of the seasons, the time of planting, you see. The North was an industrial society. The time to go to work, the time to go home to work, the time to get the products out. Everything's running on time. Efficiency, time, be on time, promptness. These are the values of the industrial society. The agrarian planting society, oh, just sit back there. Oh, the rains will come. It's going to rain today. It may not rain today, but that's all right. Everything will flow. We're in sync with the earth. We're in sync with the timeless earth, you see. And she will take care of us, you see. So there's a relaxed timelessness there. And then I think when you get down to it, this cultural war may just be a war against time and the timeless. The feeling that time is coming in and taking me over and cutting me up like a cow into steaks, into pieces of time. Or like the land, the open range is now cut up into little farms, you see. So we encounter this battle between time and timelessness in many, many forms, many, many different ways. But it all boils down to suffering. And that's what Buddha said. Life is suffering. And so time, and when we start looking at, well, what is time? There is no time if you're not thinking about it. Thinking and time are one. When you're not thinking, you're just here and you're joyous. You're timeless. And then suddenly, oh, it's time to go. I'm back in time. But for a moment there, I had no thought of time. Oh, has 2 hours gone by already? Oh my God. I had no idea. Why? I was in a timeless place. You see. So this timeless is constantly in. You get in a conversation with it. You go to a party and, oh, got cocktail party. Well, yeah. You talk about trivia and it's all planned and programmed as a certain. And then you meet somebody and suddenly you're just in a timeless space and the rest of the playing is around you like this, yada, 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 yada. And they fade off into the background. And you're in this wonderful conversation, this discovery with this other person. And then somebody knocks and says, oh, would you come over here? Oh, I'm back in time. So we experience this all the time, but we don't have an understanding of how this dance between time and timeless is going on all the time. And how we are we're so deep into time, it's like everything is time and we can't see it. If you're swimming in an ocean, you don't see any land. Like the fish doesn't know. Ask a fish what water is. He can't tell you what water is. He swims in the water. So we swim in time. We can't tell you what time is because it's everywhere. We have no idea what the timeless is, you see, unless we have a moment of timelessness. And we recognize it when it happens. And we want to bring it back. How do I get back that timelessness? With that person, that friend, I felt timeless. How do I get it back? See, so we lose timelessness and now we got to bring it back into time, and you can't do it. You can't get to the timeless through time. You can't get to the timeless through time. There has to be a surrender of time in order for the timeless to come up. And so that's kind of like so now I'm kind of like using the Mount Nebo Church. It's kind of like a metaphor. And a metaphor points in two different directions. One points to time, the other one finger points to the timeless. And the timeless is universal because everything has this timeless ground to it. The timeless ground of existence is existence itself. Time is painted over the top of it. Time is the skin of the orange. The juice is always underneath the skin, you see. But we live on the surface, on the flat surface of time, you see. Chopping up time, trying to get more, trying to get less, trying to make time better. And I'm trying to make the other person's time bad so my time can be better. You know, looking at it from that way, we're all fragmented, you see. But a moment of the timeless, the juice comes up and we're here. And we're singing when Jesus walks. Oh, happy day. You see, I love that song. When Jesus walks, oh, happy day. I mean, Jesus is not walking in time. You're Jesus. when you're timeless, you're Jesus. It's only when you're in time is you got Jesus is back there or in the future and not here. Or if he is here, it's just because I believe he's here, but I don't become Jesus. Oh no, you see. That's being out of time. So when you become Jesus, when Jesus walks as you see, you're timeless. You're joyous. You're celebrating the timelessness of Jesus, not as a story, not as a thinking, oh, Jesus is in the Bible, had a story, things going on, he'll come again in the future, but right now I'm in time. No. Well, that's the way we think, you see. But when we surrender to the timeless, we're live, you see. No program, no teleprompter, no notes, spontaneity, creativity, speaking the word, speaking in the Spirit, timeless, you see. And so that was the feeling I got from Mount Nebo Church and the timelessness of the black church, you see, and how we need to find that bottle of turpentine so we can take that timelessness, make it portable, put it in our pocket, and during our day, when we find time being too much, we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of turpentine on it and just go, I'm really okay. I'm timeless. In the timeless, there is no death. It's called the deathless. That's what Buddha called the timelessness. He called it nirvana, but that's like, oh, another heaven. No, it's not. It's the timeless now. It's the deathless state. Death and time are one when timeless is melted or erased by turpentine. You're deathless. It doesn't mean that the body won't die. It means you are timeless. You never die. And that is a fearless state of being. And that's spontaneity. When you're timeless, you're spontaneous. There's no fear of what people think. There's no fear of self-consciousness, stage fright, you see. There's no fear of people segregating you or putting you in kind of a box, you see. Because there is no box. There is no time. There is no prison in timelessness. There's only freedom. So the freedom, the joy, you see, is in that timeless now. And that's the feeling I got yesterday at Mount Nebo Church. So, thank you for dropping in.